It was supposed to be a weekend of relaxation. Anna, Clara, Sophia, and Jane, 4 university friends from London, had been overwhelmed with exams and deadlines. When Anna suggested renting a cabin in the remote Norfolk woods, the others jumped at the idea. "I read about this cabin online," Anna said enthusiastically. "No cell service, no city noise, just us and nature." Sophia frowned. "No cell service. Sounds like the start of every horror movie ever." Jane laughed. "Relax. It'll be fun." By Friday afternoon, the group reached the cabin. It was old and weathered, surrounded by dense trees. A dark, still lake stretched out behind it. The air felt colder than it should have for that time of year, but the girls brushed it off. "This place is perfect," Anna exclaimed. She was the first to unpack and start a fire in the pit outside. As the sun set, the girls gathered around the fire, roasting marshmallows and telling ghost stories. But as the fire died down, the quiet became oppressive. The trees seemed to lean closer, and shadows danced unnaturally in the flickering light. "What was that?" Sophia suddenly asked, turning her head toward the woods. "What was what?" Clara replied, though her voice was tense. "I thought I heard something, branches breaking." Anna stood up. "Probably just a deer or something. Want to check it out?" Sophia shook her head. "Absolutely not." But Anna had already grabbed her flashlight. Reluctantly, the others followed Anna into the woods. The beam of the flashlight barely penetrated the darkness. Every step they took seemed to echo unnaturally loud. "See? Nothing here," Anna said after a few minutes of walking. Just as they were about to turn back, Sophia let out a sharp gasp. Ahead, partially hidden behind the trees, stood a man. His clothes were filthy and torn, and he held an axe loosely in one hand. For a moment, no one moved. Then the man took a step forward. "Run!" Jane screamed, and the 4 of them bolted back toward the cabin. When they reached the cabin, Clara slammed the door shut and locked it. They huddled together, trying to catch their breath. "What the hell was that?" Sophia whispered, her voice shaking. Anna looked out the window but saw nothing. "Maybe he's gone." But then came the sound of heavy footsteps on the porch. Bang, bang, bang. The man was at the door, pounding on it with his fists. "Who's out there?" Clara shouted, her voice cracking. There was no answer, only the relentless banging. Suddenly, from the corner of her eye, Jane saw movement outside the window. Another man, this one holding a long knife, was staring at them through the glass. He dragged the blade across the window, creating a high-pitched screech. Knowing they couldn't stay in the cabin, the girls decided to make a run for it. They slipped out the back door, their flashlights barely illuminating the path ahead. The forest was a maze of twisted roots and low-hanging branches. The laughter of their pursuers echoed behind them, growing closer. "They're catching up," Clara shouted, tears streaming down her face. "No, keep running," Anna yelled. But the forest seemed alive, shifting around them. What should have been a clear path was suddenly blocked by thick undergrowth. Sophia tripped and fell, scraping her knees. Before the others could help her, a shadow loomed over her. Sophia's scream pierced the night as she was dragged into the darkness. "Sophia!" Jane cried, but Anna pulled her forward. "We can't stop." One by one, the forest claimed them. By morning, the police had cordoned off the area. The cabin was in shambles, its walls smeared with blood. The only clue left behind was a message scrawled on the wall. "This forest never lets you leave." Despite their efforts, the search teams found no trace of the girls. The only discovery was a single backpack near the lake. Inside was a small notebook belonging to Jane. The last page read, "They're hunting us. The forest is alive. If you find this, please help." A week later, Clara was found by a local farmer at the edge of the woods. She was dehydrated, covered in scratches, and barely coherent. "They took them," she kept muttering. "The men and the forest." When she finally calmed down, her story was chilling. They weren't just men. The forest, it was helping them. The trees moved. The shadows followed us. I saw it take Sophia. One moment she was there, and then gone. Clara's account was dismissed by many as trauma-induced hallucinations, but some began to believe that the Norfolk woods were cursed. Months later, Dr. Evelyn Crawford, a folklore expert, assembled a team to investigate. Along with James, a documentarian, and 2 assistants, she ventured into the forest, determined to uncover the truth. They reached the cabin, now abandoned. The air inside was heavy, and the walls were covered in strange carvings of faceless figures. "Do you think the girls did this?" James asked. "No," Dr. Crawford said. "These are older. Much older." That night, as they set up their equipment, the whispers began. Soft at first, then louder. James stepped outside to investigate. The others watched from the window as James' flashlight flickered. A shadow moved toward him, faster than any human could. The flashlight dropped to the ground, and James disappeared. One by one, the rest of the team vanished. Dr. Crawford was the only one to escape. She emerged from the woods at dawn, her face pale and her eyes hollow. "It's not just a forest," she said later. "It's a predator. It chooses who stays. We were never just visitors. We were prey." Weeks after her escape, Dr. Crawford gave an interview where she described her experiences. "The forest remembers," she said. "It never forgets." 3 days later, she disappeared from her home. On her living room wall, written in blood, were the words, "The forest never forgets."